Tyler, why does this entire session look like a Scanner Darkly?
Well, I've always wanted to look animated in a video or at least have something stylish in that format, and I decided to talk about an anime in this session, so I figured, why not?
Well, this is certainly a way to express yourself creatively, I'll give you that, but won't your viewers find this look kind of cheap and off putting?
No, there's only one way to find out.
Well, regardless, good initiative on your part. So, what film have you seen before that you decided to talk about today?
Yeah, about that.
You watched something for the first time again, didn't you?
I wanted to watch this movie, and I'm glad I did because it was good. Plus, there's this Netflix movie, My Father's Dragon, that comes from Cartoon Saloon that I also wanted to do a session with you about, as opposed to the one that you assigned before, which, don't get me wrong, like movies that I have already seen, already loved, and haven't talked about yet, I will talk with you, but can we please do this first?
We had an agreement for what would happen if you went against my assignments.
Fine, I'll wire you the extra money.
Alright, so, what is this new film of yours?
Well, it's called Summer Ghost, and it's this 40-minute short about a group of high schoolers who summon a ghost named Ayane, and after their initial encounter with her, one of the kids named Tomoya begins this strange but interesting relationship with her as they discuss the differences between being a ghost, being alive, the pros and cons that seemingly come with each, and how even though everybody dies, not everyone technically lives, or at least not to their fullest potential.
That actually does sound promising, although I have to say, from your synopsis alone, I've seen films with messages like this before.
Yeah, so have I. I mean, the relationship between Ayane and Tomoya reminded me a lot of Anna and Marnie in When Marnie was there, but thankfully it wasn't an exact carbon copy like I thought it was going to be. And not gonna lie, normally I hate philosophical movies like this because the dialogue can be so pretentious with how deep it thinks it is and spells out everything the characters are feeling and what their ideas towards life are, as if the audience somehow can figure that out on their own, which is weird because why would you go to a philosophical movie if you didn't want to be challenged or had no idea what you were getting yourself into? But enough about Terrence Malick.
So, what makes this feel so different or unique to you?
Well, for me, it's how the director, whose name I'm not even going to bother with, in fact, I'm not even entirely sure how you could pronounce that. It's how the director visualizes these out of body experiences that the two of them experience. They are absolutely breathtaking.
Oh, really? Does Tomoya get his spirit pulled out of his body or fly around in the sky with her?
Yes, and these bits are shown in a pretty surreal way. At one point, he's so used to being pulled out that there are scenes of him and his body in the same frame, and he's carrying on a conversation with somebody else without even acknowledging his other body. That's how accustomed and almost addicted he gets to being out of his own body. It was weird, but I really liked it. And for the flying, there are a lot of POV shots that mimic camera movement when they fly in 360-degree angles. The camera goes along with them, or they're plummeting at lightning speed towards the ground. It felt so immersive as if you were watching one of those 4D roller coaster rides. I was smiling so wide during all of these scenes.
Was there any imagery you hadn't seen before or was so out of the ordinary that only animation could accomplish?
There were these really cool sequences where their ghosts looked like they were swimming in this lake, and the ultra wide shots made everything look so vast and empty, but it was still beautiful and epic to look at because it fit the atmosphere within each of those sequences. The finale, especially, had this equally large scale but empty interpretation of the afterlife that entices Tomoya due to his perception of what he thinks would happen to him if he died, why he might want to, and what would be stopping him from trying within the moment. And the conclusion he comes to, as predictable as it was, actually did have me a little teary eyed. The speech he gives is something that and I think a lot of people my age nowadays really need to hear because it was so bittersweet and hopeful. It was the kind of outlook towards life that people really don't have anymore. And it's such a damn shame. And it doesn't help that the reason I came to you in the first place is because movies have gotten so fucking cynical, and how, as opposed to the message most movies should have nowadays, where it's like life is hard but you can improve your own life and supposedly others if you put in the effort to it, as opposed to movies nowadays where they say life sucks, deal with it. It's not a good mentality to have, is it?
You keep mentioning Tomoya as the protagonist. Weren't there 3 kids?
Yeah, the other 2 aren't as big a focus as he is, and I'll admit, they have more serious problems in their life compared to him. I mean, one of them is dying, and the other one wishes that she was.
So, why is Tomoya focused on the most?
I think it's because his arc is a little more universal. He's the typical teenager who's being told what to do with his life, as opposed to him having the capability and desire to make those decisions for himself. And that lack of control is what makes him question his existence and what's the point of moving on in life until he meets Ayane, someone who, without spoiling anything, didn't get the chance to live her life, but she still carries this pleasant, optimistic attitude where she tries not to dwell too much on her own pain, as it won't change anything for her. There are still positive memories that she cherishes with all her heart, and instead spends her time getting to know the very few things that Tomoya is passionate about, and encouraging him to pursue those dreams with however much time he has left, so he doesn't have as many regrets as she does.
That really does sound like Marnie. In fact, there are many characters who are dead or dying in movies like this that are positive in their nature and encourage people to live their lives the way they want based on their own life experiences.
It is a cliche nowadays, but I really enjoy characters like that. They're hopeful and optimistic archetypes that, as I've already pointed out, we need more of in movies. Especially with how fucking dreary things have gotten.
Was there anything about the movie you didn't like?
Well, for starters, the editing features too many quick cuts, whether the characters are ghosts moving back and forth in the same location, because that's just what ghosts do, or jumping between each other's storylines, and it always felt jarring and completely out of place, especially because there are times where as soon as one scene ends, it'll cut to black and then fade back in to give a backstory towards one of the 3 central characters. And that structure was a hell of a lot better than just jumping back and forth to be like, oh, where are we in this next setting? What's about to happen? And it's just like, I don't know, because you cut away as soon as you introduce the next scene. And I also felt that the character designs themselves looked pretty generic. Not bad by any means, just I've seen these characters in other typical anime shows, and there's one animation technique they do within this that I can't stand. They all have eyebrows that overlap their hair or other body parts for some reason. Like, from the position that I was just sitting at, you could still see their eyebrows even if their eyes aren't actually within the frame.
Oh, that's very common in anime.
Yeah, but why?
Not sure. I'm assuming it's to cut down on costs and time while animating.
Well, it looks ridiculous. There are characters who walk around in anime with their eyes closed that actually look more natural than that.
Well, Tyler, with how much you enjoyed this movie and how easy it was for you to articulate your thoughts, just for the sake of it, I'll allow My Father's Dragon as our next session.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I needed a movie like this. There's stuff like Batman, Multiverse of Madness, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fablemans, Banshees of Inisherin, among others this year, that are all about being optimistic and pursuing your ultimate goals in life for the sake of yourself and other people, even in the darkest of times. And that, I think, this movie fit the message of that more consistently and emotionally. The movies I just mentioned were a lot better, but I felt like this movie perfectly encapsulates what the year of 2022 is all about in cinema. Because 2019 was about getting angry at rich people over everything with Knives Out, Parasite, Ready or Not, Dragged Across Concrete, among many, many other things. And 2020 and 2021 were just 2019 movies that hadn't come out yet, so. But yeah, I had a really good time with this movie. Thank you so much for being lenient about the fact that I broke your rules a couple times, but I promise I will do a video and a session with you about a movie that I have already seen and loved. So, I'm gonna go get you that money.
Well, that's all the time we have for this session. If you have seen Summer Ghost, let us know in the comments below what you thought of it. Be sure to stay tuned for more therapeutic reviews, and be sure to like and subscribe. Take care.